Hello and welcome into episode 37 of the Stomp the Bus show. I'm your host, Mark Harris, and my co-host is back, Colton Dodgson, back on the show after a few weeks of adulting, taking him off the show. Colton, how's it been, man?
Oh, Mark, it's never been better because I'm back, honestly. Really tried to make it happen, wanted to be back here sooner. But unfortunately, with all of the other podcasts that I have obligations to, um, I wasn't able to get on this one for a while. So, if you missed my voice, you can hear me on any of those other podcasts that you listen to, some pretty prominent ones. Um, but yeah, I'm back here, and I wouldn't have it any other way.
Did they get you on Pardon My Take? I know Bobby went on Pardon My Take. Are
No,
you
I didn't
next?
go on part of my take. I was Bobby's alternate. If
Oh,
Bobby
okay.
dropped out, they had me on call to be like an ASU athletics host because, obviously
Right.
I'm a pretty seamless replacement for Bobby Hurley.
There you
Um,
go.
but yeah, not part in my take. They haven't come out yet, so I'm not allowed to talk about it. I think they're trying to like backlog some of the episodes that I recorded in my absence, these assorted shows. But once they come out, you'll know.
There you go. Hey, maybe it's bussing with the boys. They were at the ASU spring game this
I
past
can't.
weekend.
I wish I could talk about it with you, Mark. I just can't.
On a serious note, the bus obviously they were at the spring game coaching their respective maroon and gold teams, but they also had four ASU players on their podcast, and it was really interesting.
That's really
Um,
cool.
they had Rashada on, and it was good to hear. He just sounded very like comfortable, at peace with the decision to come to ASU, and yeah. So, and then Travion Brown, Wazoo transfer linebacker, they had him in. He was interesting. Conyers. I didn't know that Conyers and Jordan Clark were both at Cronkite. So
Oh, that's interesting.
they're the most athletic Cronkite kids of all time,
Well, I wouldn't go that far. We
no
have some
doubt.
pretty. I knew some pretty athletic people at that school. I don't want to name names, but a certain
The man in the
prominent
mirror.
news broadcaster's legacy basketball team.
You know what's funny is there's like five different groups you could be talking about right now.
Yeah,
It's still
I thought I made it specific enough, but I don't
right.
know if I did. If you know, you know.
Yeah, right. Well, no intramurals this past Saturday, although I guess it was a level above intramurals because it was practice. But ASU had its spring game on
Don't tell.
Saturday.
Hey, don't tell the competitive A guys that.
My favorite person at ASU in intramurals is the guys who like could be playing at way higher levels within the intramural structure. They play in the lowest level just to get the intramural champion T-shirt.
100%. They're the competitive A guys that are playing in Rec B or
Yeah,
whatever it is. Yeah. No, those guys were all over the place. Oh man, I have some incredible intramural stories that I hold close to my heart. Many of which I should have been banned from a lot of different ASU properties, but ultimately they didn't make that decision, and I'm glad because I have a wellspring of stories that I get to take with me for the rest of my days.
yeah. Good thing they didn't have Adam Silver and Joe Dumars making the decision, or else you'd be the next Draymond.
I don't think I ever stomped on any chests, but um, yeah, never that far. It was more obscure stuff, but yeah, I
Yeah.
think they would have allowed me to play in game three.
I mean, I was told by Warriors fans that Draymond is unfairly targeted by the refs, and he hasn't done anything wrong. So I don't know.
They're just a ragtag Warriors. The Warriors and the Warriors fans are just a ragtag group of underdogs that
Right.
nothing ever bounces their way, and it's just them against the world, the Bay against the world.
Can't get any free agents.
Yeah, the Bay against the world.
They haven't even won a title recently. Oh wait,
If
last year.
Brock Purdy would have played, it would have been Super Bowl. If now it's going to be if Draymond would have played Game 3, it wouldn't have been a first round exit. All that stuff.
Oh yeah.
Also, if you've there will never be another basketball player that averages 9, 6, and 5 and is also regarded by some people as a top 30 player. No, as a top, like, I
Yeah,
don't
I
know,
get what you're
50
saying.
player
Yeah.
all time. If you
Yeah.
look at that dude's averages, I think he averaged more than 14 points in a season once. And granted, he plays with Steph and Clay, but to be regarded as highly as that guy is pretty wild. And I don't
Well,
know,
I
maybe
remember at the peak of their powers, right? I remember people saying, "Oh, you could put Draymond on any team as the one, and they would go to the playoffs." And I was just like, "No, the f they wouldn't. You couldn't put him on the freaking Charlotte Hornets or whoever was bad back then and be like, lead us in scoring, Draymond." Like,
there has never been a more prominent example of a product of a system. Maybe I'm trying to think of like, and I don't want to just be like
I wouldn't. Okay,
recency
I would push.
bias,
Oh,
but
sorry.
no, I was just gonna say I don't want recency bias to take over, but I'm like I don't know if there's a guy that I've watched that is more of a product of the system that he's in basketball than Draymond Green.
Yeah, I would I would put that a little differently because like I would say that he does excel in his role. Like I don't think
Right.
anyone can take that away from him. Like, and that's
No,
why
I
he's going to be in
agree.
the Hall of Fame. Yeah. So I guess we're kind of saying it in the
No,
reaching
I
the same
agree with
conclusion,
that,
whatever.
but to regard him as highly as he is
Right.
regarded as like a player and not
Right.
just a guy who does what he needs to do is pretty asinine.
Yeah. Well, anyway, Draymond Green wasn't stomping anyone at ASU spring game. That's just trying to segue that back on the tracks.
The king of
Uh,
segues.
yeah, that's right. Call me Two Wheel Mark. I got all the segues.
And this is why I'm on other shows now.
Yeah, I can't believe I just said that out loud. Uh, well, anyway, Colton, who do you think? How, how do you weren't at the game? Just from following, you know, Twitter news, whatever, just kind of vaguely paying attention to spring football. What did you expect the quarterback situation to be like?
Well, I can tell you that, it's kind of like the dead season right now. I'm not on Twitter or anything like that. So I'm kind of just like I'm in full baseball NFL draft mode right now, to be completely
Right.
honest. So I could do a way better job. But all I can say is I think everybody's excited about Rashada, and rightfully so. Um, but I think in terms of going into the spring game, and I know you were there, and some of the notes and discussions we've had kind of validates this a little bit for me. This kind of inclination that I had going in, is that I think it's going to stay pretty chalk in terms of who is given the opportunity to win this job, and it looks like Bourguet and Pyne
Yep.
got the bulk of the reps at the spring game, which I did expect. It seems like they're going to try to bring Rashada along slow, let him grow into this a little bit. He had a crazy recruiting, um, I guess, recruiting arc. I don't
Experience.
even know how to experience. Yeah, I don't even know how to describe it, but just kind of let him settle into like, now you're a college athlete. That is your job right now, is to just learn the ins and outs of what this all means, right? Everybody's excited about the potential, but I didn't ever think that he was going to be a guy who came in and started week one as a true freshman.
Yeah.
So I thought that the spring game would serve as kind of a sobering reminder for a
Reality.
quarterback, a situation that kind of brings the fan base back down to earth, in terms of the people who were like, Rashad is going to start. Because I do think it will be, I think it'll more, I don't know. How did Bourguet look at the spring game?
Bourguet looked pretty good. He looked very comfortable in the offense. Um, Granted, he did have Badger on his team, which,
Okay.
he's the best receiver on the team. But he also had Cam Skattebo, the transfer running back from Sac State. And if you're an ASU fan watching this, get familiar with that name because he looks like RB1. I mean, that dude, and Bourguet was throwing to him a lot. There was a lot of screens to him. I remember like a 3rd and 1, he threw it right out of the flat to him just to pick up the first down. So, and with
What does
Pyne,
that
I
mean?
thought Pyne.
Sorry, I was just gonna ask. Does that mean Bourguet was? Would you say that team was like the ones, or did they split up
No,
starters? Okay,
yeah, because Jalin Conyers was on the gold team with Pyne, um,
okay,
and had like a 60-yard touchdown catch in this game too. Um, I mean, Jalin Conyers, I think he's going to be a first round tight end next year. Like, he's athletic, he's got the size. I mean, he has I assume he'll have the production. He had the production last year in basically only like 6 games. Um, so it wasn't total ones and ones.
okay.
Pyne, I think Pyne had like 2 passes dropped. He had another that like clearly there was like a little bit of a miscommunication in the route where Troy, I think is O'Meary, transfer from Texas. He was running like a hitch, and clearly the ball was there like a tick too early because it was one of those interceptions where like the ball like hits off the guy's like right here, like the top of his chest, and then it flew up like popped up in the air, and it got intercepted. So
Yeah,
like
I think there's going to be that learning curve with someone like
absolutely,
Pyne and a lot of those transfers too. Like it sounds like Bourguet, with the exception of Skattebo, is running with a lot of guys he's already played with. So
yeah.
um,
He had
I think.
Swinson too.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. That's what I was going to ask you about was Messiah Swinson too.
I mean, he didn't really do anything. He didn't really do much. But I mean, and the thing is, this is all like it's spring game. Like we know Messiah Swinson's a good tight end. Like we saw it
Yeah.
last year. He's huge. So like obviously very beneficial in football. What stood out to me with those two is like they clearly like they grasped the system. You could tell they grasped the system pretty well. They were making quick decisions for the most part, and that's what this offense is
And
a
you're
lot
talking
of
about the
times.
quarterbacks, right?
Yeah, Bourguet and
Okay.
Pyne.
Yeah.
And Pyne, he's not the biggest guy, but he has good pocket presence, and a pretty quick release. And Bourguet, I mean, we saw Bourguet last year. Like he's accurate, and just knows what to do with the ball. So
Yeah.
I could see how those two are the ones that kind of rose through the depth chart in spring practice.
Yeah, and I think what I noticed about Bourguet too, especially last year, is he doesn't really get too rattled, which I think
No,
is great. I mean, we saw it in that Washington game where for a long time it was like you have to answer, you have to answer. They're
yeah,
coming back. They're kind of like every ASU drive, there was a subsequent Washington drive to kind of put the pressure back on the offense. And I think every time I watched Bourguet in one of those situations, he kind of answered the call, which is encouraging. Um, and I don't know, it kind of seems like Pyne transfers in and he has the Notre Dame pedigree, started a couple games at Notre Dame, whatever it was. And then you have Rashada, who commits to ASU after the very prominent NIL fall through, whatever that was. And I think that Bourguet has fallen through the cracks a little bit. And I don't know if that's necessarily like something that should be happening. I think maybe Bourguet needs to be held in a bit of a higher regard simply because of his familiarity. And like, based on what you saw at the spring game, it seems like he's still pretty sharp, and has a little bit of room to grow even. I mean, this would be his second? I mean, his first full season as a
or
starter.
yeah.
So,
Well,
uh,
and you mentioned him falling through the cracks. I think that's in terms of like the fan base. He's fallen
right,
through
that's
the
what I
cracks.
mean.
Yeah,
That's what I mean is in terms of like, oh, who's going to be the starter next year? Nobody's really bringing up Bourguet, I don't think.
right.
And I don't know, maybe some circles of friends who are
No,
discussing
no, but no,
are.
you're right. Yeah, no, people
But I
like
don't think when you're talking about who's QB1 next fall, Bourguet is brought up significantly less than somebody like Pyne or Rashada is.
yeah,
And I don't know if that should necessarily be the case. And
right.
maybe
No,
what you saw at the spring game kind of like supports that.
and no, that totally feels right. Just anecdotally, with just talking with people about the upcoming season, and I think one reason might be like, I think there's just a lot of people that want to put last year completely in the past, which totally makes sense. Um, but Bourguet played decently well in a lot of games that they lost, you know. Obviously we all remember the Washington game, they won that one. He played decently, he played pretty well against U of A for the most part. He played decently well against UCLA. I mean, there could be game. I mean, he didn't play well on the road at Wazoo or against Oregon State, so like it wasn't perfect. But again, this was not a good team that he was on.
No one plays well on the road against Wazoo or Oregon State. So,
well, OSU is home, but yeah, it's the same.
I mean, any ASU quarterback folds there. So
yeah, no, that's true. So yeah, expect one of those two to be the starter. And hey, like if Rashada is the starter by the end of fall camp, then that means he's been awesome, right? So, but yeah, talking about Rashada at the game, you could see the talent in terms of like his arm strength, but you could tell that there was just he's still like figuring out, speed of the game, the offense in general, and just decision making. I mean, the play that stands out is, I think he was going toward Conyers in the end zone. It was there at the 50-yard line, and he's like avoids some pressure in the pocket, then rolls out and like just hucks it downfield, and it got picked off by one of the safeties, because it was a broken play type of deal. But that's the perfect mistake to make in a spring game.
Yeah, and that's just like inexperience too. Trying to extend a play. I mean, obviously it's a spring game. Nobody's going to tackle you if you're a quarterback, right? So that might not be an opportunity he even gets in a game. And maybe he's aware of that. He's just like, I don't know, make a play in a spring game, see what happens. But that's exactly, I mean, that's probably what they're seeing is that inexperience in terms of like, we have to bring him along a little slower. If we want to get, I mean, in the transfer era, anything can happen. But obviously, the best case scenario or the current plan has to be 2 years or, a year where he competes and then wins the job. And then you get 2 years as a starter, or a year where he competes, doesn't, and probably transfers or whatever it is. But the plan has to be like not this year, but next year when he truly contends, based on the arc that we've seen. But I think on the topic of Bourguet a little bit, and I guess the theme of this has kind of been like he's the forgotten man a little bit, and that might need to change because maybe the coaching staff doesn't necessarily see it like that. But even like going back to last year, he didn't open as the starter. He was probably the backup, right, with Paul Tyson. It doesn't open as the starter, and
forgot about it.
Yeah, everything happens with Herm Edwards in the Eastern Michigan game and all that stuff. They bring in Sean Aguano as the interim, and then it's kind of like, oh, we're gonna go to, he's kind of thrown into this fire a little bit where it's like nothing is going right. So not only the pressure in terms of like what's happening in the game, but the pressure of like the fan base currently hates this team. Some of these fans are actively like rooting for us to lose. So certain executives get fired. Like that sort of situation has to be one of the most difficult to play in. And he still came in and played the way that he did. Like there's a certain fortitude about this guy and a certain passion probably for this program given everything that, he's been through, that I'm sure that's probably a common ground with somebody who's trying to activate the Valley and Birmingham, right? That underlying sense of passion that maybe this guy has that, you can't really find that in transfers or freshmen. So that's another layer to this that could be interesting.
Absolutely. Well, in Bourguet, him and like his family and his brothers, they started like their own 7-on-7 team and went up against like 7-on-7 teams that had like 4-star recruits and were just like they like, I don't know how it all went, but like they hung tough with them to a certain degree. And like that's like a different level of passion and dedication for it, because it's not like, oh, I'm just joining 7-on-7 team X and I'm one of the receivers or whatever. It's me and my brothers and maybe a few other guys from school. We're starting a team and going out and, And clearly you can see that in just in the decision making and the accuracy. That transfers over or has transferred over from 7-on-7 with him. So he had like a prolific high school career too, and didn't get recruited by U of A or ASU, and then I think he walked on.
I feel like all these guys have prolific high school.
That's true. That's
I
true.
feel like you could go down. I mean, I'm sure Alabama's quarterback room right now is just like 5,000 yards, 60 total touchdowns in their senior year. Just
right.
crazy.
I think it's this. I think I should have said record breaking.
No, I get what you're saying. Yeah. Like, I mean, it's still pedigree. Like, it's still something you've accomplished. You know, which he seems that I feel like that's something that guys either have or they don't in terms of quarterbacks. Like that ability to kind of slow it all down and weather the storm a little bit and stay. I guess the best way to put it would just be like staying present. I think some guys make it way too big, and that's what you see at every level.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I was just gonna say, like in the NFL, guys struggle with it, you know.
Yeah, and I'm sure. I mean, everywhere you'll see where the moment just, and I think that was, we could go on and on, but just like examples and whatever, but that's like a real thing that you notice. And I don't know if it's a comfortability with a system or just who you are or a coach, whatever. But if somebody has that, I would argue that's one of the most valuable traits. All of these guys are athletically talented. All of these guys are skilled, but like that intangible stuff, that ability to come into a situation and like just take control and be in that moment is imperative. And I think that's something we've seen a lot from Bourguet, especially last year. Like you can't overstate how well he played given that situation. That situation had to be awful for those players.
Yeah.
In terms of like, you know, even with Iguana, like you're rallying around this guy and it's like, okay, we all probably know this. Like they have to know the ins and outs of like this business and how much money is being thrown around for these athletic directors and these coaches and all of this stuff. And it's like, are they really even going to keep this guy that has kept us all together? I don't know. You know, like just all of those things that are swirling around. So to be able to play as well as he did, given all of that, I think is impressive.
Yeah, totally. So I would be totally fine with him starting this whole season. Like,
I agree. I mean, that'd be cool to see him like with two guys coming in that are pretty. We're on a lot of lists in terms of transfers and recruits and stuff, and to still see him get that job, I think.
Well, in Conover too, who he didn't really play that much in the spring game, but yeah. And the other, in terms of if Pyne starts, in terms of like, you know, overcoming adversity, like we don't think that he would because it's Notre Dame, but like Notre Dame started last year, like, I mean, they lose to Ohio State, whatever, but then they lose to freaking Marshall, and it like the sky is falling, and they barely beat Cal, and like this, like last year was a very stressful like season for Notre Dame people, even though it went well in the end, but Drew Pyne's been in a meat grinder like that as well. So
yeah,
I think that bodes well for the quarterback room. Other observations, I mentioned Skattebo. This dude, he just looks so difficult to tackle. He's just stocky, but he's also clearly like super athletic. He did like a backflip after a touchdown. Great body control. He's just going to be so fun to watch, man. Like I can't wait to see the ways that Dillingham uses him.
5'10", 222. That dude is going to be impossible to tackle.
Yeah, dude.
Like,
yeah.
Oh my God, that's wild.
He's going to be so good. Like, because you never know with guys going up from the FCS to the Power 5. Like, that's a big jump, but he did not look out of place at all. And a lot of people were like, "Oh, this guy's the spring game MVP," which, like, who knows how that works out in the long run? But he looked the part.
Yeah, that's literally like a Rex Burkhead build.
Yeah. I mentioned Conyers and Badger. There's really nothing to say. Like, they were both awesome. BJ Green on defense. I just remember watching it and it just felt like he was just all over the place, you know? So hopefully he can kind of get back to the way he was playing his freshman year. And then I'm going to kind of bring this up when it comes to the transfers, but one of the freshman defensive tackles, CJ Fight, he's also like he's 5'11" as a defensive tackle. And you could tell that was just really disruptive to the offensive lineman he was going against. Like he burst through a few times. And, you know, it could be because of the way Brian Ward's defense is. Because they did have like 4 interceptions that game throughout the course of the game. You could tell it's aggressive. But there's like 3 ASU defensive tackles in the transfer portal. And I think it might be because like Fight showed up and played way better than they expected your average freshman to play, you know?
Definitely.
Yeah. So it was a fun game to watch. I think that like just watching that it's I do not expect this team like having any record close to the record they had last year. You know, like I think that this feels
agree.
Yeah. This feels like a 6-6 at worst type of team. Or maybe like 5-7 if you have a missed field goal or you just get extremely unlucky and you go 5-7. But it feels much more competent. Clearly some of the transfers are going to hit along with some of the guys you brought in the year before, obviously. But I'm excited, man. I like that game. Whenever they play Oklahoma State, that second game, like that's going to be so fun. A team that beat you last year. It won't be the first home game of the new staff. It'll be like the first real like home game of the new staff. And I'm just excited. I bet there will be a good amount of Oklahoma State fans here too. Like it'll just be a great atmosphere and it'll just be so fun to see like, what does it look like when bullets are flying, you know?
Definitely. Yeah. And I think at the very least, you kind of said it, but like this will be a team that scores, you know? If they're losing games, I don't think they're going to lose games because they scored fewer than 13 points or something like that. You know, I don't think they're going to lose very many defensive slugfests, you know. They'll be able to score points. And in the Pac-12, I think that's extremely important to keep pace with, you know, the USCs and the Washingtons and all of those programs, you know. So as long as you have the pieces on offense and as long as Dillingham finds the quarterback that he has that synergy with and the quarterback that's able to run Dillingham system, I mean, we've seen that it's a quarterback friendly system that produces results and scores points.
Yep.
So as long as they can run that, if he finds a guy who can run that system effectively, I don't think they're going to lose because they're not scoring points.
I agree. So, yeah.
And that'll be fun. A lot of overs.
Yeah. And you know what? Like, this is what we said during the coaching search and what we said pre-coaching search. Like, if you're going to be like a 7-5 team at ASU, you need to be like scoring points and being an exciting type team. Because otherwise, like, look, we know what the fan base is. Like, people aren't going to pack the house for Iowa football results, you know, unless you're going 10-2 every year. Then I mean, yeah, then people will. But you need to really win if you're going to play like a boring style of football, like our last coach. And so I like that Dillingham. I mean, he's an offensive guy anyway, but I think he, if anyone, would know like you need to have the bells and whistles on it too to get the people who aren't super dialed in. Anyway, we're going to transfer over to some transfer talk. There's a little Freudian slip. You know, there's not, so far we're recording this on Wednesday night, and so guys could obviously enter from then, but there's really only been 7 guys. There's been 7 guys who've hit the portal from ASU football, and really only 2 of them are like notable, if that makes sense. So I have a list in front of me here, Colton. There's a random linebacker who I'm forgetting his name. Sorry, but he entered the portal. You have offensive lineman Danny Valenzuela, offensive lineman Thomas LeBoucher, who were backups. Like, I don't, you know, those were not like super notable players. And that's what's good about the transfer portal is like those guys can go play somewhere else. 3 defensive tackles, Brandon McElroy and Jaleel Rivera Harvey, who were both JUCO guys. And so, hopefully, I wish them luck at their next spot. And then defensive tackle Robbie Harrison. That's a tough loss because he played a little bit last year, young guy. But I did see his note that he left on Twitter of like, thank you, Sun Devil Nation, yada yada yada. He mentioned all the coaches from the previous staff. So, there are coaches that leave all the time, and now this guy can go, play with coaches he wants to play for now. So I totally get it. And then Bennett Meredith as well. And he actually looked pretty decent in the spring game, but he's just stuck behind so many other guys on the depth chart, And my overall takeaway with this is like, for the most part, the people entering the portal, it's people that like, it all makes sense. It's all on the outside, it looks like it's for playing time reasons.
No,
and
absolutely. Yeah.
Just leaving because the situation is so bad like last year.
Right. Because of like, it's not a fit and the culture is just not where it needs to be, all of that stuff, which again is a good problem to have, if guys, as long as there's not an exodus because nobody can stand the coaching staff or there's some shady things going on, which, I think this is the first time in a very long time that I've thought about the investigation, which is actually pretty refreshing.
It's a good thing.
This team seems like it's going to stay competitive even through that, which is good. And I think that's also a testament to the current culture, the current climate in college football where, if that happens and guys need to go elsewhere, so be it. But they're not really worried about, their career becoming derailed because of some sanctions or whatever, which is good. I mean, they're weathering that whole storm too. So exactly. The culture seems to be trending in the right direction. Hopefully that's something that stays and, it's something that's consistent. And if they lose a couple of games, hopefully that doesn't go anywhere,
Right.
So again, you're completely right. There's nobody transferring because this isn't the place for them. It seems like everybody that is here wants to be here, which is what Dillingham was preaching when he got in. So
exactly. And I mean, the other thing from last year, like at this time last year, we didn't know who our quarterback was going to be. Like Emory Jones was brought in after spring football. So like that's like when Ricky Pearsall left, it was like, oh dang, I'm upset. Like I wish Ricky Pearsall would stay a Sun Devil. I loved watching him play, but at this time last year, he didn't know who was going to be throwing in the ball. So there's not this like chaos. Like there's just not this chaos around the program. It's just muted expectations. Like, okay, let's just improve, like anything will be better than last year for the most part. Like we brought in some guys, like this team just looks like it has talent at spots. And so there's good vibes and there's not, just question marks everywhere. That's what it was last year. It was just what's going to happen? Is the investigation going to drop in the summer? How's it going to affect all this? And then even though you're right, you just mentioned the investigation's still like a thing. It hasn't been resolved, but it feels like so much less of a dark cloud hanging over the program because there's only one guy from that staff still on the program, and he was the running backs coach then. So like, who knows how much it'll even be, ASU will even be punished. I mean, I don't really want to get into that hypothetical conversation, but it just feels like less of an issue.
No, absolutely. And that's a good thing, purging everything that happened with that regime, I guess, that sort of, I don't even know what to call it. I guess regime is the right word under that, in that era, I guess, of ASU football, moving away from everything that happened with that is a crucial step, I think, in this, separating yourself and distancing yourself from everything that happened under, in the Herm Edwards era is paramount for this team. Like Dillingham needs to overhaul this program and complete and create something and build something that is the antithesis of what happened under Herm Edwards. So, and I think obviously the fact that we're not thinking about the investigation, we're not thinking about culture problems, we're not thinking about do guys want to be here, we're not thinking about how much longer does Herm Edwards have. It seems like it's generally just positive energy right now surrounding this team, which is a huge first step toward kind of separating yourself from that.
Absolutely. Well,
and it's also great, like very promising that I don't think there was a huge, you had guys like Elijah Badger and Trenton Bourguet and Jalin Conyers and Messiah Swinson, like prominent producers from last year who are still making the decision to come back and didn't transfer out. I think that's just a testament to how big of an impression Dillingham has made this early on. So
yeah, totally.
That was kind of my last note. You can do your segue now.
Well, I don't even have anything, but like just to wrap up football, like heading into, the summer and, before fall camp and stuff, like feels like we're leaving spring practice on a good note. And there's really only been one injury too, which is also important. You can have all the good vibes you want if 5 key players go down with season-ending injuries. It doesn't matter.
If no one's playing, it does not matter.
Exactly. Well, ASU basketball will have new players next year. Actually, got 2 of them in the transfer portal in this last week, including one earlier today. That would be. So, do you want to talk about the guys coming in or one of the guys who entered the portal?
So it looks like Frankie Collins and Warren Washington are doing the NBA draft, maintain your eligibility thing. Yep. You wanted to talk about Duke Brennan, right? He just entered the portal.
Yeah, because it seems like an odd portal entry, because Duke Brennan, like, he played a decent amount his freshman year, but it's not like he had like, it's not like schools would be like banging down his door to get him.
And he's
at least that's how I feel
too,
What?
I said, and he's a local guy too. I don't know if it had something to do with like just a program fit, but he played a lot. As a freshman too. I don't really know.
No, it does seem like a weird entry. Again, Jemiah Neal entered the portal and came back, so we have to always note that. And on the other side of it, Devin Cambridge said he wasn't going to go in the portal, and then he went in the portal. So
I know not Frankie Collins, but DJ Horn picked NC State.
Yeah.
Has Devin Cambridge picked anywhere, or is he?
No, I don't think so. I know I think he toured some places. He toured, or he was going to Oregon, Clemson, and then ironically Auburn, even though he was at Auburn the year before he went to ASU. So it's not like he doesn't know what it is, but so it's just so weird. I think the only guy from ASU basketball last year who isn't either leaving, entered the NBA draft type of thing, or put his name in the portal and came back is Alonzo Gaffney. Like he's the only one who's just been like just chilling on the roster this whole time and not entering the portal, not like he's just been, it's like, oh yeah, I'm still here, so that's interesting. But
yeah, and I mean, even if Frankie Collins and Warren Washington decide to do the NBA thing, which I mean, I would be, and again, I don't know anything.
Frankie Collins is not getting drafted this year.
No, that's what I'm saying, and I don't know if Warren Washington is either. Like
Warren Washington, I'm a little more, as from an ASU fan perspective, in wanting him to come back, I'm a little more concerned just because he is a center. Like he is 7 feet tall. Like, and maybe he gets good like feedback at his workout. Like, oh, maybe you won't get drafted and you probably won't play in the NBA, but talk to this agent and he's from the Greek basketball league or whatever, or from the Australian basketball league. But on the flip side of that, if you're Warren Washington, you can just be like, okay, well, that's always going to be there,
Yeah, so. Exactly. You can go play for one more year and then go overseas if you want. I mean, So those guys, I guess it's just holding pattern. But even if we're going conservative here and looking at the team without those two names, it's like you've got Jemiah Neal, you've got Alonzo Gaffney, maybe Duke Brennan comes back. I don't know. Maybe I mean if Desmond Cambridge is or Devon Cambridge, my bad, is or Devin Cambridge. I don't know why I'm fumbling his name. If Devin Cambridge is taking visits and stuff, I don't that doesn't seem too promising in terms of being like, yeah, no, I'll come back. But again, you got guys coming in. You got Adam Miller, Zane Meeks. You got a couple freshmen, Akeel Watson and Braylon Green. It looks like
Kamari Lands, Malachi Davis.
Yeah, is Kamari Lands from the guy from NC State?
Louisville,
that's right.
Same
okay.
colors, same conference.
Yeah, I'm fumbling this, but either way. And the promising thing for me is Bobby seems like a coach who's kind of built for this transfer era of basketball. He did it last year. He's got some turnover this year, but not as much as he had last year. And he put together a team that almost won a round of 64 game in the tournament. So
he put together a team that made the tournament.
Right. Which is all you can ask for as an ASU basketball fan. As long as we're getting into the tournament and we get to watch basketball, meaningful basketball through March, like I think that's a successful season. And just looking at this roster, I think he probably could. So he could do something, or at least keep this team competitive. So
absolutely. And I know some people hate hearing, oh, it's just making the tournament isn't good enough for ASU. You got to aim higher. And it's like, of course you have to aim higher, but like, I'm just basing this all off historical precedent, like, just be happy when they make the tournament. Like and look, it doesn't always look great throughout the course of the season. Like I was critical of Bobby this past season, but if it all shakes out in the end and you're in the tournament, then fine by me. I do want to get into the two guys they picked up this week, starting with Adam Miller. So he's listed on ESPN as a sophomore. I don't know what he actually is in terms of eligibility. Like he's played 2 years of college basketball. He started at Illinois, and he was actually the Illinois Mr. Basketball coming out of high school. So this guy has talent, but then transferred to LSU last year, scored 11.5 points a game on 33% shooting. So, take that into consideration. But double-digit scorer. And LSU basketball last year, like that was a mess. I think they're kind of they were similar to what ASU football was last year in that they were in the wake of a recruiting scandal type thing with Will Wade. So I could see why he'd want to get out of there. So excited to have him. And he's similar to Kamari Lands in the sense that these guys were both really high recruits coming out of high school. And early on in their college career, just for whatever reason, things didn't totally work out. But that's the type of player you want transferring into your program. And then, so Miller, 6'3", I'm sure he'll be one of the guards. And it's just, I mean, maybe he'll like come off the bench too, like who knows, but how it'll all shake out. But it's a good addition. And then Meeks is a forward. He seems like one of these, I'm pulling up his stats right now. 6'9", has 4 years of college experience. He was at University of San Francisco last year. So we got a up close and personal look at the ASU roster that he helped light on fire in the Bay right before Christmas. But he is, he scored 10.9 points per game last year on 47% shooting too. So fairly efficient. Shot 32% from three, career 34% shooter. So not like a dead eye, kind of just an average 3-point shooter. But again, like he scored, 10 points per game, played at Nevada in the past too. So he's used to a higher level of competition. Again, he'll probably just be someone that comes off the bench for ASU and contributes, but it's just another body to have. Like, because someone might get injured too. Like, no one on ASU basketball got injured last year, from what I can
Right.
recall.
Well,
And
I mean,
so,
Austin Nunez,
oh,
but
that's right, Austin Nunez. No,
yeah,
okay, nobody who had like
awesome.
significant minutes got injured. If that
Well, I
makes sense.
mean, dude, Austin Nunez in that Michigan
That's
game
true.
was lethal.
That is true.
I think that really hurt them last year was losing him. But
That's true. Yeah,
um,
scrap what I said.
no, it's all good because he missed like most of the season, so it was
Yeah,
easy to just be like, yeah, he didn't really play, and they had enough time to figure it out without him. But that was
yeah,
a big loss, I feel like. But I mean, even like going through I'm on 247 Sports right now, looking at the overall, um, recruiting, not recruiting, but like the addition rankings.
right.
And I mean,
Recruiting
even
plus
on
portal.
right, the transfer plus, or what did you call it? The
I
recruiting
just said
plus?
recruiting plus portal. I think, yeah, I don't know
Yeah,
what it's going
yeah,
to show.
yeah. No, that's what it is. So,
Yeah.
I mean, even with the four guys they're bringing in, three of them are 4 stars. One is a former 4 star coming. Kamari Lands was a 4 star coming out of high school.
Yep.
So I mean, these additions look solid, and I mean, without Frankie Collins, Adam Miller is going to be huge. That's obviously a
Yeah.
position of need. And the two young guys, Akeel Watson, 6'8", 205. This team desperately needs size, and hopefully he can come in and be a force on the glass, if nothing else, or on the boards. Um, and I mean, Braylon Green too, shooting guard. It seems like all of the guys that are coming in are guys, and Kamari Land, 6'8" too. Like,
Yeah. No, they are
they're,
bringing in size on
yes,
the
which
wing.
is
Like, so even if,
100%, which is what killed them.
yeah. And even if, like, let's just say Warren Washington gets drafted with the 59th overall pick or something, um, you at least have size in other areas of the team, right? You have, like you said, Kamari Lands, Zane Meeks is 6'9". And then so the guards you added, Miller is 6'3". I think Davis is 6'3" too. And then Watson, the freshman, is 6'8". So like, yeah, you're bringing in tall guys, and I think maybe that one thing that Bobby, like, last year was the first ASU basketball team under Bobby that, like, where they played defense. Like, they really played defense,
Yeah,
and having, a bunch of long arm guys who are tall, that helps playing defense. So,
they can block
um,
shots. And I mean, 6'8", 205. That's Akeel Watson. Hopefully, somebody who can hold his own in the low post when he does get minutes. If he does play very much as a freshman, who knows with
yeah,
freshmen. But at the very least, Kamari Lands and Adam Miller with Jemiah Neal was huge down the stretch last year.
absolutely.
Um, Bringing him back is massive. Same with Alonzo Gaffney. Continuity and that reducing the turnover a little bit. If they're able to bring back Warren Washington with these four transfers, I
That would
think,
be so
or
big.
these four additions, they're not all transfers, but these four additions, I think that would be massive for their ability to play. And I mean, every Bobby Hurley team is going to throw up their threes, right? But like, to have a force on the low post, to have a lineup that you can go big with and get
Yep.
rebounds and not give up all those second chance points and all of that, I think is extremely important. So
And the other thing with Warren Washington, like, for one, he's a legit 7-footer. And the
right.
other thing is, like, he's not some oaf who just grabs rebounds and tips shots back in. Like,
He
he
doesn't
was
have a ton of
skilled.
touch, but I agree he's like pretty nimble.
Yeah, he's skilled. Like, for
Yeah.
college basketball standards, like, he is a very skilled big man. So, it's weird with the portal post the end of, like, after the end of a basketball season, because you see Jemiah Neal enter the portal, you see DJ Horn, and you're just like, what the heck's going on? And
Yeah.
then now it all shakes out, and it's like, maybe, I mean, I would still love to have DJ Horn, but you replenish, and so
Right. And I mean, it's just part of it now in this
I know,
landscape.
yeah,
Like, you can't even blame guys, like Jemiah Neal for entering and seeing what was out there and doing what he had to do. Like, it's just it comes with the landscape at this point, and it's not even necessarily a bad thing when that happens. It's not even necessarily an indication that these guys are even leaving, as is the case with Jemiah Neal. It's just, I mean, it is uncomfortable for fans to see all of that, and it's always unfortunate when guys leave, especially with Devin Cambridge, who said he was coming back and then was like, never mind.
Yeah, that I think it's completely different as a fan to be like, no one's saying you should tweet at these guys or anything, but just from like a annoyance standpoint, if a player says, "Hey, I'm coming back," and like releases a statement, or like in Jaden Daniels' case, releases an edited video, and they end up not coming back, it's like, it's so much better to just say nothing and then leave. Like Duke Brennan, he didn't 100%. Say anything. He didn't confirm he was coming back, and then he put his name in the portal. And it's like, as an ASU fan, I'd love to have everyone stay, but it's less annoying to deal with.
It is the most annoying thing in the world, because you're absolutely right. There's nobody asking you to put out a statement, especially if there is even a shrivel of doubt that is the decision you want to make, because it makes you look so dumb. Nobody is telling you that you can't have this choice, or you have to stay. And I don't even think people would be upset. Like you said, I don't think anybody's upset with Duke Brennan. And if he chooses to leave, okay, best of luck. He had a better opportunity elsewhere. This is a 19, 20-year-old kid. Like, every opportunity for you, Same with like anybody else. DJ Horn, right? Like, best of luck.
And he's from Raleigh too. So
right. He was great for us this year. He's going closer to home. Like, I have no problem with that. The only thing that I will ever have a problem with is the Jaden Daniels, Devin Cambridge stuff, where they're like, Sun Devil for life, I'm coming back. And of course the cases are different. I'm sure Devin Cambridge didn't say it like that, but Jaden Daniels sure did. And it's a case-by-case thing, but at the core of these announcements, it's somebody who's announcing something that they're not even really that sure of themselves. Because if you were 100% certain that you were coming back, you wouldn't change your mind a week later. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yes.
Like, so don't lie to everybody by saying like, this is what I want to do, when you don't even know that's what you want to do.
Yeah. And you're right in that it's a case-by-case basis, because like, we don't know what happens in the background, but just again, that's why you just don't say anything.
100%. Do not say a word. Do not tweet. Do not put out a video. Don't do any of that until you are like, this is where I'm going to be, without a shadow of a doubt.
Yep. I agree. Well, with that, that's pretty much all I got this week. Anything you want to bring up regarding Sun Devil Nation?
Not really. We kind of hit on all of it. It was great to be back in the saddle. My press tour is finally over. So I get to come back to what I love, and I don't have to fake it on all those other shows.
All right.
Which is a great feeling. It was great to be back with you.
Definitely. Why did I say? I was going to say you as well. That's not the right phrase, but it was great having you back on. Definitely didn't run out of breath these times because you were taking up some of the airtime. But
happy to help.
Yeah, no, but next week, I mean, we'll be right before the draft, seeing where guys get picked. It'll be interesting to see if Valde goes in the draft. I want to talk about that next episode, but
I was looking at some running back rankings, and I didn't really see him on many even top 30 lists. Which, if you're not on one of those, it doesn't look great. But UDFA, maybe there's nothing wrong with UDFA.
He was a well-rounded player. That's what I would say. Even though he's not like the elitist of athletes, but that's also like he's being compared to NFL players, so like it's a little different standard. But
I think maybe Soeli has a chance. I've seen him on some lists.
Yeah, that would be interesting. Yeah.
I mean, late UDFA type of guy, but somebody who might have a chance. I mean, no surprise, it's not a very big year for the Sun Devil NFL Nation thing. So, but we'll see.
We will. All right. Well, Thanks for listening. If you'd like to, please rate and review, like and subscribe, do anything that could help us a little bit. Or help us is the wrong phrase, but just, do all
Give
the
us a
things.
little boost. Put
Give us
Mark
a
on
little
your
boost.
shoulders.
There you go. That's why he's an English teacher, folks. He knows how to speak the language.
Oh, why did you out my occupation, man? You just doxed me.
And he's at high school blank blank. No, all right.
I just realized I put my name as Mark. I didn't even mean to do that.
I noticed it at the beginning, and I was like, I'm not gonna.
I don't know why I did that. It wasn't even a conscious thing.
You're just thinking about me all the time.
I guess you live rent free in my head. I got to start charging you.
Oh man. All right. Well, thanks for listening, and go Devils.